YouTube, who is old, cranky, pale, skinny, and constantly sporting nothing but nipple armor into combat? Well, it's Morathi. No, I bet some of you might have been thinking me for a minute, but that is definitely not me, and boy, aren't you glad for it. In any case, welcome back to another Total War Warhammer 2 online battle. Yes, I'm once again playing as the Dark Elves, and this is because my random faction selection picked the Dark Elves for me yet again. I'm playing against Regina. She is part of the community over on the Discord and really loves her High Elves, so I told her to just play the High Elves rather than me giving her a random faction. Up front, I've got 3 Bleak Swords, I've got 2 Cold One Knights, I've got 3 Dark Shards, 1 Witch Elf, and then I have 2 Dread Spears. There's 1 on either flank, and that is the entirety of my army except for this Dark Rider that I deployed on both flanks. Behind her, she has 4 Dryads, which is going to be a relatively light infantry component, 1 Spearman, the Scions of Mathland, 1 Sister of Avalorn, 2 Handmaidens supporting Alarielle the Everqueen, who's back here, Alarielle the Radiant, it calls her here, but we know she's the Everqueen. And then she's got these 2 Illyrian Reaver Archers, and then hidden in the woods, the Fireborn Dragon Princess. Alarielle has her healing spells, as well as the Star of Avalorn, so she will be pretty potent. Immediately, her Sisters of Avalorn are going to start trying to target my high-value Blackguard of Nagaron. And I want to talk about something right here and now. If I want to improve heading into the tournament, there's a few things you got to do well when you get into the tournament play. I'm just going to pause it just real quick so we don't miss any of this. Whenever I see that she has a unit like this, and Sisters of Avalorn are specifically for taking out high-value targets, well, any target, but someone who's using them properly, like Regina is right here, is going to go after a high-value target. Well, you think about what is the purpose of the Blackguard. Blackguard is specifically an anti-elite cavalry or monster unit, and really doesn't need to be this close to the front of my line. I had it up here thinking that I need to protect Morathi and the Death Hag, but that's not necessary. They massively debuff their enemies between the different abilities here. Let me show you those real quick just so you all are familiar with them. Heartrender and Dark Sword takes away 9 melee defense and attack from all nearby enemies. And then also we've got this Enchanting Beauty that takes an additional 9 attack away. And then for the Death Hag, we've got this Chill Blade, which takes away an additional 5 attack and 12 speed. So Morathi is not going to die instantly in a front line. So what I should be doing is keeping the Blackguard well to the back with the Witch Elves and the Dark Shards to keep them safe. This will leave the Sisters without a great target until I'm able to pressure them with some cavalry. Initially, I want to engage the Dryads, and I start pushing all of my Blackguard and Nagaron forward. But I mean, you can't catch these units, and this is not a smart decision. I end up starting to pull them back, but I've already lost over half that unit for no good impact in this fight. I am able to blob up her infantry here. She's obviously going to be putting a lot of pressure on my Dark Shards, knowing that they're key units. I do go ahead and put a Pit of Shades down on the Sisters of Avalorn. I accidentally brought all the spells from Morathi. I did not intend for this to happen, but it is what happened. I'm going to come in here and focus on the Sisters of Avalorn, who are fresh off of a Pit of Shades. They've taken a lot of damage. I won't be able to finish them because the Fireborn are coming in order to try and rectify this situation. The infantry fight won't be great for me anywhere where Morathi and the Death Hag are not in combat. The 2 of them will seriously debuff enemy units and help me cause a lot of damage. She's going to come in here with the Illyrian Reaver Archers. My Cold One Knights are going to be able to help do quite a bit of protecting. This one's a little bit slow to respond. There's going to be some healing over here, or actually a Shield of Thorns. She wants these Witch Elves to lose a lot more units in that fight. Again, I think that I've already made some pretty serious mistakes here. Witch Elves are really great at berserking units, and we know that units are going to come after the crossbows, so the crossbows should be focused firing on high-value targets for the High Elves. Witch Elves should have been back here, Blackguard should have been back here, and then my other units could roam, because it would be almost impossible for anything to attack the crossbows with the Witch Elves and the Blackguard around. So I definitely wish that I would have used my resources a little differently. And right now, Regina is making me pay for it. She's doing a great job in this fight. She's doing a great job. So I've got some pretty tough infantry fights here in my hands, ones that won't easily swing in my favor because I didn't bring particularly good infantry. I'm running away from her Fireborn because I'm trying to keep her Sisters of Avalorn pressured. I don't want them doing the kind of damage that they intend to do right now. So you can see more spells coming in over here in Earthblood. She's really trying to keep these spearmen in the fight for a long time and make them very worthwhile. Over here, I'm not going to let the Fireborn catch me, so they actually end up pulling out and deciding to do some rear charging here. Not going to be a bad use for them. Sisters of Avalorn, under a lot of pressure, I'm going to go ahead and attack them and try and finish them off. And I'm also bringing Morathi that way, as I'm wanting to get a hold of some of her leadership, but they're all on horseback. So unless she makes the mistake of standing there, there's not going to be much I can do about it. Cold One Knight did manage to get these Illyrian Reaver archers, and I've got these Dark Riders here. And one of my Cold One Knights, I believe, end up all the way in combat up front here. I went ahead and used Soul Blight. I'm trying anything I can do to try and keep these Fireborn from being as effective as they can be. I had the Blackguard there. They're weakened. I also had Morathi there. I'm going to intercept this Fireborn with my Dark Riders. It is it's a worthy sacrifice here. I have to do something to keep those Fireborn from absolutely wrecking my Dark Shards. I didn't realize at this point that my Dark Shards were on auto skirmish because I had recently reinstalled the game. So that is why they're just constantly running away. And I had been clicking attack orders, and every time I'd look, I was like, how come they're not shooting? Because I wanted to shoot these Fireborn. That's why I used the Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. It was to damage them and slow them down so I could shoot them. But they won't fire because they're automatically running away. I do notice it, and I'm able to rectify it, but it's not going to happen immediately. These Berserking Cold One Knights, fortunately for me, berserked towards the Dryads, but managed to intercept the Fireborn, which is exactly what I needed. I then swing over with the Death Hag, which will help nerf the attack a little bit of these Fireborn, but they're not going to stick around. They're going to take an Earthblood and hit the road. The Dryads are getting attacked in the back by the Cold One Knights, which again, the Berserk mechanic's actually working out okay for me right now. And then same thing right here. These Cold One Knights berserked into the Handmaidens, but again, kind of okay with this because the Handmaidens will take a lot of damage fighting these units, and I'm pretty alright with that at the moment. So you can see there that the Handmaiden definitely taking a bit of a shellacking. And those Handmaidens are going to be tough. Star of Avalorn comes in pretty timely here, but while the Star of Avalorn is healing, I finally get my crossbows under control, and I start to dish some serious damage to these Fireborn, despite the fact that they're getting hit by the Star of Avalorn and healed significantly. So Regina brings in some regrouped Illyrian Reaver archers, but I've got defensive mode engaged. Yes, my crossbows are bunched up, but I don't have the potential to move right now. I've got to get in here and shut down these Fireborn if I want to have a chance of pulling this battle back from actually kind of what looks like a bit of a catastrophe right now. It's a close fight, though, because Regina's still going to have to deal with the Death Hag and Morathi. I don't have a ton of magic right now with Morathi because I'm using it on Melkoth's Miasma, and just everything I can. By bringing Morathi over here in the Death Hag, I end up taking away over 20 melee attack from any units that are within the radius. So what this does is it allows me to keep my Dark Shards alive longer, even though they're being attacked in melee. I don't want to turn around and give her free hits while the Dark Shards run away. I want them to stay here in combat, because just look at the stats on these units that are still attacking. I mean, they get seriously debuffed. Seriously debuffed. Almost down to 0 attack whenever Morathi and the Death Hag are both engaged in melee. And you can see the same thing here. The Fireborn are going to come rolling through. I'm going to hit them with another Miasma. It slows units down. That's my big play right now. And again, I'm going to stay in the defensive stance here. Look at this. As soon as they get into combat, watch what happens to the stats. See, 29 melee attack. It's already nerfed a little bit. Went all the way down to 20. Yeah, whenever Morathi gets close, and that Death Hag, it's going to drop the stats significantly. So I am taking a lot of damage to my crossbows. I don't like it, but they are causing pretty big damage to the Fireborn, who are getting closer to death. Alarielle is just kind of chilling, knowing that she's not really the type of unit that should be in combat right now. I'm going to intercept these Spearmen with Morathi and the Death Hag. I cannot keep these all these units off of my crossbows, but again, by keeping Morathi in melee and the Death Hag in melee, nearby units are going to suffer terribly, and they'll cause a whole lot less damage. You can see, unfortunately for me, though, these Fireborn were just outside of the debuff zone. I think they end up moving into it here momentarily. And there's another Star of Avalorn, so I'm in a bit of trouble here. One of my Dark Shards starts routing. Regina could escort it off the battlefield at this point. Morathi and the Death Hag finally catch up to the Fireborn, who I use another Melkoth's Miasma on. I need to undo the healing. That's what I'm doing my best to do right now. So it does end up working, and I shatter the Fireborn, but I've still got a full strength Alarielle, and I've still got a Handmaiden that's regrouped here. It's still got some ammo too. There's Dryads, so I have quite the fight, but Morathi is a huge debuff to enemy units nearby. Huge debuff. So I'll just get in close here and let you all see the fight. She'll do just fine. As long as I get her in melee, it'll be good. I'm saving up as much mana as possible because I do have Soul Stealer available to me as well, and Morathi is going to need to do some healing. While Morathi wasn't there to support, Alarielle tries to get some hits on the Handmaiden. Fortunately for me, there's like literally one regrouped Black Guardsman. Quite the valiant soul. And then there was 22 Bleak Swords that did help absorb some of what the High Elves would have done to these units otherwise, thank goodness. And Alarielle ends up taking some decent damage in that fight. You can see one Handmaiden here, mostly dead, but going to be used to escort out these Dark Shards who were probably about to return to the fight. And this Dark Shard unit may be escorted out by Alarielle. Yep, it will. Which leaves me in a pretty desperate fight here. The Handmaiden's going to find herself in a difficult position because Morathi has anti-large, and the attack debuffs are very, very significant. Despite the fact that she's got infantry support and my two units don't, the Death Hag and Morathi combine to be very, very potent. So I did take some damage, but we got rid of the Handmaiden relatively quickly. Alarielle's going to come back in to try and finish us. I am still just desperately waiting on my Winds of Magic to replenish. If I can get a Soul Stealer here, I'll win the fight. If I can't get the Soul Stealer, we're going to lose this fight. So it is very, very close, and I think at this point I was either 1 or 2 Winds of Magic away from it. I had some regrouping units, including some Dark Shards. My Dark Shards managed to pick off a Handmaiden right before she attacked him, and now she's going to get these Sisters of Avalorn, who fortunately don't have ammo. So the Dark Shards take them out, and I'd get just enough magic for the Soul Stealer at the very most opportune moment. And Morathi and her Death Hag are going to rout the Everqueen and her remaining Dryads and Spearmen in what is a very Pyrrhic victory. Very fun fight with Regina. I loved this fight. It was cool because it was themed. It wasn't intended to be, but it ended up being themed. It was Alarielle versus Morathi, so you had like the Queen of Light and Righteousness from Ulthuan or whatever versus the Queen of Sin and Pleasure from Nagaron. So pretty cool matchup there. In this case, the Sin and Pleasure won out. I'm sure Regina did not approve, but she loves her High Elves, and she did a good job representing them. I like the tactics she uses. It always ends up being very challenging. I can always expect some Dragon Princes from her. She usually hides them and brings them in at opportune moments. I love the support of the Handmaidens that they offer to Alarielle, and then the use of the Sisters of Avalorn being able to wreck my Blackguard of Nagaron. You can see they picked up a Chevron. This unit definitely helped bring value to the battlefield. And then, of course, her Dryads are a good unit against low armor infantry. And they're a relatively cheap unit, and they actually cause fear, I believe, as well. Now, fortunately for me, I did have these Cold One Knights. They both did quite a bit of good for me in the battle, thank goodness. And my Witch Elves ended up doing okay, but again, you can see none of my infantry units did outstanding, and the biggest flop of all was the Blackguard. These units should have been removed to the rear of the battlefield, specifically to guard these Dark Shards, while the Dark Shards took on key targets. So if the Fireborn were close enough, Dark Shards shoot the Fireborn. All the while, my Dark Riders should have been used to busy the Sisters of Avalorn, while my Dark Shards took care of business. So the idea behind my picks here was to give me quite a bit of flexibility. My anti-large was the combination of Cold One Knights and Dark Shards. My harassment capability was the Dark Riders. My infantry capability was pretty weak, with kind of an idea that I'm going to turn this weak infantry decent with the combination of Morathi and the Death Hag. And then these two were kind of meant as specialists to potentially get rid of dragons or cavalry, but they didn't end up getting used that way. So big mistake in terms of how I executed the battle plan, but fortunately the flexibility of this army gave me just enough to get through just enough. It was a very fun battle, like I said, for Regina. Love the pick and the play style. It's always fun to play against her, and like I said, she always represents those high elves well. I'm sure that she makes Alarielle proud more often than not, and in this case, Morathi was barely eking out a victory. At least she'll be happy that she got a bunch of blood, but she'll be going home lonely because there's no one left to go out with that night. I guess she'll just go out with Malekith. Yes, I know it's her son. It was a joke. Any case, hope y'all enjoyed it. Heir of Carthage signing out for now. Guess what? I'll be back with some more action soon. Some of you may want to see the Archaon campaign. That'll be back tomorrow, so keep your eye out for it. I'm excited to bring it to you. Heir of Carthage signing out for now.